What's up guys, Coach Dino here. Today I want to talk about hydration and more importantly overhydration and kind of the reason why you would want to bring a jug like this if you're a bodybuilder, powerlifter, an athlete in a sport that requires you to cut weight. What the real reason bodybuilders use excessive amounts of water might be, and whether or not you should cut water or use water manipulation for bodybuilding contest. So the reason I have a jug is I'm powerlifting this weekend, my first powerlifting meet, and because I'm also bodybuilding in 3 months, I kind of am in the middle of weight class, and to be competitive I kind of like to be in the lower weight class just because my relative strength isn't very high compared to people, you know, I've been powerlifting for a while. Cutting water weight is a way of making a lighter weight class. Then you rehydrate and you're back to your normal weight. And I did this a lot in the 20 years I spent in Judo. Keep in mind I graduated high school at 185 pounds already, so I was already cutting 7-8 pounds for Judo. And then when I got into mixed martial arts in my 20s, I also had to cut weight to make the 170 pound category, so I was competitive in that category, and that involved me cutting 15 to 20 pounds mostly of water. So there's several ways to cut water, and I'll come back to that. But in terms of bodybuilding and water manipulation, it's pretty common practice, and I don't think most of the bodybuilders know why they do it, why they load water and then cut it before a show. I think that the reason they think they're doing it and the actual reasons for this practice are very different, and the implications to the physique, the changes that happen to your physique, often end up being negative. So why would somebody want to manipulate water? There's this idea that if you cut water you can look drier, the idea being that you can pull water from the subcutaneous layer into the muscle cell, or at least into the vascular system away from the skin, to make your body appear drier, harder, fuller, and things like that. The unfortunate thing about this idea is that the body has a mechanism called homeostasis, in which it thrives to protect balance. So it wants to protect this water or fluid balance within the muscle cell and outside the muscle cell, and there's a gradient, and water shifts, right? So if you drop water pressure on one side of the gradient, it will flow from one to the other in order to equalize. It's about 30% outside the cell, 70% inside the cell, and it'll flow between to equalize. So if you dehydrate someone, they're going to release water from their cells to maintain this balance. And this is why the practice of cutting water to look drier is false, and there's quite a few good explanations for this on YouTube already. So I'm not going to get into explaining kind of the mechanics behind that, but I will explain where this practice probably came from and how very poor coaching leads to the perpetuation of this practice within bodybuilding. And unfortunately, for the people that are doing this, they often end up, maybe they still do well, maybe they still even win, but they don't bring their best possible physique because they've manipulated the fluid balance, and then they're going to appear flatter, they're going to appear maybe spilled over. So that's why I always discourage people from manipulating water or sodium or potassium, because your body is very good at regulating these things already. You're not smarter than your body, you're not going to trick it to look better. It's just not worth that risk. So where does this practice come from? It most likely comes from bodybuilders who want to be competitive at a lighter weight class. They'll use the same practices I said I was going to mention that I had used in order to make weight for Judo, for mixed martial arts, and now for powerlifting, is that you water load throughout the week. You drink excessive amounts of water. This forces your kidneys to excrete more water, and then depending on how much weight you need to lose, you cut the consumption of water a certain amount of time away from the weigh-ins. You'll continue to excrete lots of water without taking any in, and you'll lose weight. Then you need to rehydrate, and you'll gain the weight back. So there's other forms of cutting weight where you could sweat out the water. You could wear a sauna suit, you could go in a sauna. I've done all those things. The problem is it drastically affects performance, and you end up making weight. But then I lost a fight when I cut 22 pounds because I was a little on the heavier side, and I was just fatigued after a minute, and that's how I injured my arm the first time. Got subluxed in an armbar. I was just too fatigued to fight anymore. So the strategies are used, but maybe just fight in a weight class that's closer to your weight. There's a couple studies on rehydrating, and most of the time you can't get all the weight back you cut anyways, so you want to cut as little weight as possible. Okay, so bodybuilding. You're loading water, and then you're cutting it with the idea of looking better, looking leaner, looking drier, looking fuller. We know this is a myth. This isn't true. It's a archaic practice that's come over from pharmaceutical bodybuilding, and it was probably used for a competitive bodybuilder to drop a weight class. He did the same practice I just mentioned, loaded water, high throughout the week, cut it sometime on Friday, weighed in, and then rehydrated. Okay, so how did that become something that people do without knowing that's what they were doing? They don't need to make a weight class, but they're still doing that. And this comes back to this idea that in bodybuilding, in physique competition, programs are recycled. So somebody hires a trainer, they go on to win a local bodybuilding show, which in my books really doesn't mean much. I've competed 5 times, placed second or first in all of them, and I don't think I'm a good bodybuilder. I don't even think I'm competitive yet, and that's not why I'm training people. But what happens is people win one show or do well or don't even place, but they have a good transformation. They take the program that they had purchased and they recycle it to their clients. Then you get this mass reuse of one program for lots of people. The same thing happens. One of their clients does okay. They recycle the program. Maybe they swap a couple of variables. But I see this a lot. I get new clients who have trained with other companies who are using recycled programs. So we get this recycled use of programs, and what probably happened is at some point somebody hired a trainer to get them ready for a bodybuilding show. They needed to make weight, so they loaded water and they cut it. This person went on to do well. They took everything that they used for their prep and they then used it on their clients, not knowing that the loading of the water and then cutting of the water wasn't to make them look any better, but was to get them to drop into a lighter weight class. And that's probably where this practice came from. So most of you people don't need to be, loading water. Just kind of consume water as normal throughout peak week. Don't play with things. Don't try and get an extra edge. You're not going to trick your body to look any better. If you look good the Sunday before, why play with anything? You're going to look good the next week. Just focus on the things you can change, like working on your posing, making sure your tan is good, all these other things that I learned along the way that you really need to focus on. So I hope that helped you. If you have any comments or questions, put them down in the comments below. Don't forget to hit like or subscribe. You can share my video. Let me know any topics you want to hear. And yeah, just a quick update. I am 2 days out from my first powerlifting meet, which brings us 8 weeks out from the MABA Provincials, which is a Canadian Bodybuilding Federation event in Winnipeg. That'll put me a week out after that from IDFA Prairie Classic, and then another 2 weeks after that is the INBF Central Natural Championship. So those are my first 3 shows, and depending on how well I do at those will determine which shows I'll do after that. So I'm planning on doing 4 to 5 shows this season, and then I'll take a very long off season, probably at least a year, maybe 2 years, so I can concentrate on family. But of course I'll still compete in other things. Maybe I'll do I've always wanted to do like a Spartan race or a mud run, and I think that I've got the bug for this powerlifting thing, so I might train for that. But that doesn't really required me to maintain the same strict dieting and the same volume of training. Lots of 1 rep singles and stuff like that. Again, using specificity to train properly for powerlifting. So yeah, that's it. So as always, guys, I'll see you in the gym, and yeah, thanks.